Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the mythic day that we have been talking about for a long time. When Saturn and Neptune meet, it's not just another transit that we talk about, it's the collision of reality and dream, as seen through Saturn's real ideal and Neptune's ideal. And structure and dissolution come up as themes. Form and formlessness become the themes. Law and myth collide in this particular epic transit. Good morning, everybody. I'm Janet Hickox from Living Astrology. It's time to grab your cup of coffee and your tea or your water. Terry, you simply must come home and make me another cup of coffee because I'm out. And let's chat about what is happening up in the stars above today. Literally, the entire show is going to be about Saturn and Neptune, but I want to take this in a different direction. I want to look at the potential in the myth, right? And we do that first by taking a look at the potential for this expression in the world and what it means for all of us, personally and collectively. But then I also want us to take a look at the old myth, and then I've created a new myth that I will read to you at the end of the broadcast this morning. And I hope you all will join me in living out the new myth. All right. So thank you so much again for joining me this morning. It's good to have you with me. I saw Terry out there this morning, and Amy, good morning to you. Teddy, good morning. Christine Buckingham, good morning. And Narges, good morning. And all of you out there I can see behind the scenes, but haven't yet checked in. Thank you so much for being here. So today we are standing at a starting line. It feels like we are at the beginning of an epic novel, an epic tale. And this isn't just another conjunction of two planets coming together. And yes, we have talked quite a bit, and you've probably heard it from other sources about the Saturn and Neptune conjunction. But this is epic in terms of the place it is falling in Aries, right? 37 years ago, we had a conjunction of these two planets in Aries. But it's been more than 3 centuries since we had an epic conjunction like this at the 0 point of Aries. So this is epic, right? When I say epic, I mean it is big in scale. This is the opening of a new chapter, and it's not the resolution of an old one. We have the new without the resolution of the old, right? And in some ways, things are resolving, but in other ways, we are still a long way from resolving them. Now, this is sort of a mythic collision of planetary energy in that Saturn governs structures and boundaries and responsibility, literally time itself. And he is the architect, he's the wall, he is the container of the energies that will build for the future. In one respect, he owns the territory of Capricorn, the traditional, the solid, the earthy. And on another scale, he owns the energy of Aquarius, the future, right? What hasn't yet formed. And then there's Neptune. Neptune, Poseidon in Roman mythology, he owns the dissolving of structures and forms. He blurs the edges, he blurs the lines, and he weakens our certainty. And he replaces clarity with belief or with imagination and sometimes confusion, right? Confusion is a Neptunian theme. It is the fog, it is the ocean, it is the dream. It is not solid, it is not real. And when these two meet, the reality of Saturn meets the imaginative energy of Neptune, then what we have is certainty weakening in the world. And we have new possibilities appearing out of our lack of certainty, our lack uh, of structures and forms working the way that they used to. And when these two meet in Aries, then the energy becomes new, right? This is the possibility energy. Now we're talking about action energy. Aries, ruled by Mars, the planet of action and dynamic forward momentum. Aries doesn't wait until everything is figured out. It's much more impulsive than that. Aries energy moves, and this creates friction, right? When energy starts to move, it creates the energy of motion, which creates friction. And Saturn wants a plan. Neptune blurs the plan, and Aries pushes forward anyway, right? Aries energy is dynamic. So the tension that we're all feeling, if you're feeling it, and I think most of us are, then it's the heart of this alignment, right? It's the heart of the Saturn Neptune conjunction that you're actually feeling. Now, these two are conjunct at the 0 degrees of Aries. This is called the Aries point. It is the beginning of all things, right? 0 Aries is the beginning of the year, the astrological year. It is the point where all things are new, all things are possible, nothing is yet set in stone. And then it is the beginning of the entire zodiac cycle, right? So that's why everything is possible because nothing has yet been experienced, right? This is all new. And when slow moving planets, and Saturn and Neptune are both slower moving planets, when they meet here, private developments become collective issues, right? What was abstract becomes visible, and what was theoretical becomes real. And there is something very raw about 0 degrees Aries. Um, it does not know yet how to manage urgency. It reacts first and then adjusts later. It's almost like act first, think later, even. And this isn't experienced energy, it's not seasoned energy. There's no experiential energy here. This is initiation energy. And because of that, this conjunction marks a starting line, right? It's almost like you know, the starting pistol at the beginning of a race. We're getting ready to run. The pistol has been shot, right? The pistol has been shot. And it's the beginning of the starting line, but not of clarity. We don't have clarity yet about where we're going or how this is all going to turn out. We have no completion here. This is all fresh, new, exciting, new energy. I mean, there aren't many more adjectives I can use to describe this. It is truly a beginning, right? A beginning. And yet we are still in this in-between phase, right? We're in this time that, I mean, like one of the biggest truths that we can hold right now in our lives is that we're in this in between phase, and that the existing frameworks that we've been living with all of our lives are losing coherence. They're loosening up before new ones are fully established. Like, we don't have a framework for the future completed yet, but we know that the old is dissolving. It has dissolved in many cases already, and we don't necessarily have any. I mean, even the people in power have no clue about the range of energies that they're dealing with here. And that can feel very destabilizing, right? Destabilizing both in our personal lives in some way, but destabilizing because you are part of a collective that is being destabilized by this very energy. And you may feel it personally, and that's something you believed no longer fits. A structure in your life that you always could count on, it feels thin now. It feels unaccepted now. And maybe there's a dream that once inspired you that now demands accountability. Like, if you are going to do something about this, do it or don't do it. Either way, it's fine by the universe, right? That is Saturn and Neptune pulling ideas out of abstraction, like pulling it out and forcing them into some kind of form. And in Aries, sometimes there's not stability yet in what that looks like. And something that has lived as a vision or as a dream or a concept or a longing now demands that you put structure around it. Now demands that you bring it into form, that you draw it out of the liminal space between the mind and reality, and you force it, or you maybe not force, but you make it real, right? You make it so. In the words of Jean-Luc Picard, make it so. But this time that lacks stability also serves a purpose. And the purpose is that it clears the illusion, right? It clears the fog, hopefully, from some of the things that we have been thinking about or dreaming about so that the vision can become real. And I dare say that in Aries energy, especially at 0 degrees, there may be a lot of fits and starts to this dream. There could be a lot of starts and then go, blow it up, start over kind of energy. And that is the nature of all new beginnings, right? They're never really very smooth, right? Whenever in your life, if you started something that just went without any hiccups along the path, right? Without having to make any changes. So this is where the Saturn Neptune energy kind of becomes intimate. Because where in your life personally has faith lacked structure, where you just had this inner faith in yourself, but you've lacked the putting it into play energy, where the structure was lacking. Where have you built something that lacks soul? That would be at the complete other end of the spectrum. Where has fantasy replaced responsibility in your life? And where are you being asked to mature spiritually? And I think this is the biggest news of all, is that we're all being asked to mature in very responsible, mature, spiritual ways, right? But Saturn doesn't kill the dream like some people might be thinking. Saturn, the seriousness, the rigidity, the discipline, the structure, the form, the responsibilities, killing the dream. Au contraire, he is testing it. He is testing for reality. He is strengthening the dream so that it can grow legs. It is, if it's an illusion, then it dissolves. It wasn't real to begin with. And this is what spiritual adulthood looks like, right? This is what it looks like as we all become more fully aware of the dream and what can be real and what is not real. And most of us have been living in an illusion, right? An illusion of security and safety that's outside of ourselves, instead of something that comes from within. We've been living in a time where we have trusted and placed our loyalty in the wrong places. And now we're course correcting, right? And Aries energy is about the courage to initiate something in our lives. I'm going to pause right here for a moment to be able to say good morning to everybody out there that's popping in. It's good to have you all with us this morning. I hope you're feeling the epic nature of this energy as I am this morning. I saw my husband Terry out there. Good to have you with us. And Amy, I saw you. And Terry, Teddy, Patty, Narges, Gayla, good morning to you. Good morning, Namira. Good to have you. J-Lo, nice to see you. And Catherine Worcester, good to have you with us. She says, happy to make the love show. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you for being here. I couldn't do it without you here. And Jacqueline, please be sure to smash the like button and the thumbs up button, whatever platform you are watching me on this morning, and then share this with someone who has maybe, some kind of astrology or, as Jackie puts it, some galactic medicine need in their lives. So then we have Terry, Lee Strauss, good morning to have you with us too. Tamara, good morning. Asa, love you so much. Glad to have you here. Narges says ditto at Jackie, a call to action. I love it. Asa, testing it if I can stand the test of time. The same for all of us, right? And Willow Rose, good morning. Joan Durchie, good morning. Asa says it's an energy that my ancestors never felt. It's up to me to stamp it, right? In 1989, we got a taste test, if you will, of Saturn Neptune conjunct in Aries. And think about what all that 1989 brought to us. You know, in the USSR, it became glasnost and the spirit of the opening of the East to the West and the West to the East, where the Berlin Wall comes down a year or so after that. There were a lot of changes. I'm getting chills even thinking about this. There were a lot of changes that came about that were enabled by Aries energy. However, this is the first time that we have this energy available to us on a mass scale, because the 0 point Aries energy is initiating the whole of the universe that we live in, not just you and me or the USSR and the USA. It is everybody that is being initiated here, and it has a sort of urgent feel to it too, almost as if our very survival that can shift into thriving energy is at stake here for all of us, right? It feels that epic to me. And because this is energy that is in Aries, it demands personal courage. As I started to talk about courage, the courage to initiate something. You know, Aries energy prioritizes identity. It's the first sign. It is the body. It is the I am presence, the I am that is you, right? You are. And it asks questions like, what do I stand for? What will I stand up for? And what agreements have I made that no longer agree with me or no longer reflect who I've become, or who no longer reflect who I want to become? Because we make lots of agreements, right? Even if they're unspoken agreements about how we're going to show up in the world, about what we'll do, about who we will be, who we won't be, how I'll be within this relationship, how I don't want to be within this relationship. So these agreements have been holding true for you over time. And now Aries energy says, now I'm leaning towards self-interest. I'm leaning toward me before we. But at its highest octave, when we talk about Aries energy, it teaches us healthy individuation. And it really is the energy that says, if you don't know who you are, you cannot build anything that's sustainable or of lasting nature. If you don't know who you are, how can you be you in a relationship? Right? The opposite point of Aries is Libra. And in Libra, often we see the energy of people pleasing, or the energy that sort of tries to be all things to all people and loses almost itself and its identity to the other, right? We're learning to balance these two great energies. So for those of you out there who are Libras, or who have Libra prominent in your chart, you know this, right? In your need to belong and to connect and to be accepted and loved, what have you given up that is true for you? Right now, we learn to balance this. So this conjunction pushes us to put our unfinished visions of ourselves into the real world decisions that we make. So when we're making a decision to be or do something, then it really has to come from a place of courage to be you, to stand up and be the real you. And it may feel like stepping forward, even if you don't feel like you're quite ready to do so yet. It may also be you having to take responsibility for your own direction in your life. So many times we want to blame the outer world for the situations that we find ourselves in, or the condition that we find ourselves in. But ultimately, you are the responsible party. And we may be asked to leave behind alliances, the personal or professional ones that no longer align with us, with the truth of who we've become or who we're becoming. And we may end up acting before we have perfect clarity. In fact, perfect clarity is nowhere to be seen yet, right? And that's uncomfortable for both Saturn and Neptune. That makes it uncomfortable for each one of us. But evolution rarely waits for perfect comfort before it begins, right? We evolve out of the discomfort of what has been, if that makes sense, right? Um, and all of us hopefully here feel this energy of the world changing. Not necessarily all the time in the way that we want it to change. Sometimes it's downright ugly, right? Just talk about the Epstein thing, right? The ugly. But what's being revealed out of this ugly is the potential for the change to be more like what we really truly want to be like and not what has been happening, right? Now, there's a collective layer here. On the personal level, you're all being asked to step up and be you. On the collective layer, this isn't going to be about just one event. Today's not a one-off, right? This isn't Saturn and Neptune come together, yay, and we're done with this collective evolution. It just doesn't work that way. It's about a trajectory, right? It's about a journey that we're on, that we're moving through. And when Saturn and Neptune aligned in 1989, global structures shifted, as I mentioned, right? The whole USSR changed, right? The glasnost and perestroika and the relationship between the USA and the USSR changed. The USSR became Russia and then several other, countries. But now they're meeting again, but at the very opening degree of Aries, during a time when Pluto, the great transformer, awakener, and empowerer, is in the sign of Aquarius, the sign of the future, and the sign of humanity. And at the vanguard of Uranus's move into Gemini, which begins just a couple months from now, again in earnest. And that means the old systems are losing cohesion. The old ways of being are losing cohesion, and new ones are forced into place, sometimes before we're ready for it, sometimes without any real forethought as to what it's going to look like. And the transition is rarely smooth. Collectively, the transition is not smooth, right? And this forces us to remember something vital about this time period that we're in, that this is a starting line. This is a starting point. It is a restructuring process that takes place. It is a redefining of our beliefs, of our authority, of our identity, both national and personal, and also the collective direction that we are moving in, that we want to move in. And it's undefined at this point in time. Right? We have these vague ideas and notions about what it is that we're trying to accomplish, but there's not a cohesive storyline yet. But there is a higher octave here, and that is, what I want to talk about here next, because we've seen the drama, that's been unfolding in our world. We've seen the trauma of some of the things that are unfolding in our world as we stumble to correct and course correct some of the things that have gone wrong. But when we have these two planets coming together, Saturn gives Neptune some bones, right? Some structure. And Neptune instills some meaning into Saturn, right? Not just doing for the sake of doing, but having some heart in it. And together, these two planets will birth maybe an embodied spirituality where we really become the truth of our divine selves, perhaps birthing ethical leadership, which has been sorely missing in the world, and disciplined vision. And by discipline, I don't mean that in a way that makes it hard or difficult, but makes it strategic, right? Strategic paths for our future. Courageous compassion. Try that one on for size. Courageous compassion. And this isn't the end of the dreaming for us, right? This is the beginning. It's the end of naivete, right? About being naive and how it is we're creating what we're creating, not being accountable for what we're creating. If it's the end of naivete, then this is the most powerful time in our lives, in our history, perhaps even. So instead of asking, what is going to happen, because like I always try to tell people, astrology is not really predictive. It's archetypal, meaning I can look at this Aries energy and I can say, okay, something new is being birthed, but it doesn't tell me exactly what is, right? Because there's free will, and there's evolution, and there's, choice. There's always choice involved in these things. But instead, ask for yourself, what am I building? What do I want to build? What illusion am I ready to release about myself, about who I am in the world, about my abilities, about who I want to be? And what vision am I finally willing to take responsibility for creating? Right? It's your job. It's not mine to create it for you. I have to create my create my own vision. You have to create your own vision. And the connection here to those two planets is not about just drifting along aimlessly, right? As it has been in the past, right? Feeling a little victimy about what it is I can do versus what I can't do. This is really asking you to initiate from that bold, pioneering, courageous Aries energy. And that that makes this such a powerful Aries moment, don't you think? Right? Now, we've talked a lot about it being in Aries, right? At 0 degrees of Aries. But now I kind of want to look at the spiritual architecture of all of this. Because if you notice, we've talked about human design and the gene keys, and the fact that these two are conjunct at the gate 25, or the gene key 25, which this is all about the restructuring of vision and the dissolving of illusion and the beginning of a new chapter. But what makes this time even more extraordinary is that that conjunction is sitting at the gate 25, the love of spirit. And not just anywhere in the gate, it's sitting in the line 3, which, as you know, if you've followed human design and you followed the gene keys, the line 3 is experiential. It's living out loud the potential for the expression of, in this case, the Aries energy and the energy of the love of spirit. Now, in the gene keys, the shadow of this particular gate, because in my mind, I'm thinking about the way the world looks outside of me, and I'm thinking about how is it that 0 degrees Aries ended up in the gate 25, the gate of the love of spirit, right? It it feels off a little bit to me. But when we really look at what it is that is in the shadow here, the shadow has been constriction in this particular gate. And we're rising up out of that constriction. In the gene keys, it's constriction that moves us to acceptance, that then moves us to universal love. So the highest potential of this 0 degrees Aries moment that we are in the process of creating is about unconditional love. Gate 25 is also innocence. It is the open heart. It is the 0 point that says all is possible. There's nothing written. It's tabula rasa, right? The blank slate, nothing on it yet. But the line 3 is the experimenter. The line 3 learns through trial and error. And that's why I think there's going to be a lot of false starts and fits and starts. It learns through lived experience. We are going to be learning and living that experience through mistakes, right? Tested through love. And as well, when Saturn, which is structure, karma, responsibility, and Neptune is faith, dissolution, spiritual longing, meet together in the gate that's highest expression is universal love, we're being asked to mature spiritually. It's another call for us to up-level our spiritual selves, our divine selves, to up-level love in our lives. And it's not spiritual theory, right? It's moving it out of theoretical into action, spirituality in action. And, for whatever purposes the Epstein thing has been in our faces, and we even see that some of our spiritual guru types out there have been a part of this whole thing in the past, what is it that we're learning from that we want to take forward with us? Not that Deepak Chopra was mentioned 3,000 times in the Epstein files. We want to say, okay, what have we learned from the words from this man What have we learned about ourselves in looking for our truth outside of ourselves that we can take with us on this journey as we move forward now, right? It's spirituality in action. You've learned, we've felt, we've now got to live it, right? We've got to live our spirituality. But there's tension here. No way about it. No way around it at all. The shadow of the gate 25 is constriction. It's what happens when we shut down our hearts, right? It's when fear hits, the heart closes up. And we're learning that when fear hits, it's a signal for us to open our hearts, to be wider, to be more open, to be more loving, to be more in acceptance and tolerant, loving. And when Saturn and Neptune collide in this particular degree, the fear can be about losing structure, losing our identity, losing our belief, fear of instability, right? The world is unstable. We can't count on anything. It's the fear of chaos. It's also the fear of anarchy, right? I was watching a video, started to watch it. I didn't really have time to watch it yesterday at all, but it was about Aries, the return of the high and mighty, or, it made it sound like, the energy of the time is taking us to high power, like stranglehold power type things. And I felt like that was fear, right? The fear that someone is going to take us over. And it's fear that constricts your heart. And that's where the fork in the road is appearing for all of us right now, right? Do we constrict, or do we expand into acceptance, into heartfelt connection and love? Because the gift of the 25 is acceptance. It is not passive acceptance either. This is spiritual acceptance. It's the kind of acceptance that says, I will not let fear close my heart. I will open it even wider, because that's what's being required of me. That's the truth of who I am. I am love. And in that, I'm going to open my heart even wider, even wider, even in the face of fear. Now, I want to layer something else in here, because this is extraordinary timing. I mean, I can't make up this stuff. You know, I say that all the time. I cannot make this up. Yesterday, the sun in human design moved into the gate 55. Now, the shadow of the gate 55 is victimization. And it's victimization born out of fear, fear of the other, fear of failing, fear of, you name it. You name the fear, it takes us into victimization energy. And in the gene keys, the way out of victimization is freedom. It is the only gene key in the whole 64 gene keys that has only the two words, victimization or freedom. There's your fork in the road, right? Do we stay in victimization and fear and lose our hearts, close down our hearts? Or do we open up to freedom, which is heart opening, which is about moving toward acceptance and universal love? And the Siddhi, the highest expression here is freedom, but freedom from suffering through those things in fear. The gate 55 in human design, quantum human design, is called the gate of faith. And it says, do you believe life is happening to you, or is it happening through you? And this is emotional faith, right? It is no accident that a Saturn and Neptune test our spiritual maturity on one hand, that the sun is illuminating faith. Faith is not blind optimism either, right? Faith is choosing expansion over constriction, choosing love over fear. Now, the Earth in all of this is interesting as well. She sits at the gate 59 when the sun is in the gate 55, and that is called the gate of sustainability in quantum human design. In its shadow, it's dishonesty. In its gift, it's intimacy, and in its highest expression, it's transparency. Transparency. Gate 59, the Earth dissolves barriers, the barriers that we erect between us, right? Think about the boundary between the USA and Mexico, or between USA and Canada, or any country in the world for that matter. It separates people. It creates a barrier. And Yet the 59 also asks us, what is truly sustainable, right? Is it necessary to have an iron barrier versus a system that is strong and is able to keep immigration moving smoothly, just to use that as an example. It's going to be what looks dominant, what looks powerful, but we're aiming for what is intimate, what is transparent, what can be real, what makes sense in the heart. And sustainability, I'm trying to tread carefully here. Sustainability is not about survival, even though this is tribal energy in human design. If you're familiar with tribal energy, it's about what sustains the tribe. But one of the things that we're noting as we evolve over the course of time is we are losing that sense of, we're not losing, we are increasing the definition of what tribe, community, nation means to us, right? What does it mean? How are we embracing connection, right? Connection. Because we're all in this together, right? Connection is so important. Now, also at this point, we have Pluto. Pluto in this story is in the gate 41, which is the gate of imagination. So you can see how all of these things are kind of fitting together, right? We have, this idea of universal love, of high spirituality with Saturn and Neptune. And then we have the sun this week at this gate that we think of as the love of spirit in action that creates abundance and faith for all. And then Pluto in the gate 41, which is in the shadow energy is fantasy. In the gift, it's anticipation. And in the highest expression, it's emanation. We talked about this back in January when the Human Design New Year began, because the Human Design New Year begins at the gate 41. The gate 41 on the DNA level is a start codon. It starts the coding for something new. Pluto, the great transformer, the great awakener, the great empowerer, sitting in the gate of fantasy that has turned real, right? That is the seed of what's to come. The imaginative spark, right? The beginning of all new cycles begins in the gate 41. Pluto here says the old fantasies are dying. The old beliefs are dying. The old ways of being are dying. But a new vision is gestating. Something is being born. Something is being created. And this is the critical difference, right? Right. As the old is passing away, sometimes we dig in and we try to hold on, right? We try to hold on to the old because it's safe, it's known, our survival is linked to it. And there's something really scary in the new, and there's something really scary if the things that we used to believe in are no longer there. And the shadow of the gate 41 being fantasy means that the fantasy is being dissolved by Saturn and Neptune. So illusions are being stripped away, but not so that we devolve into anarchy or chaos. It's so that imagination can become embodied, so you can begin living your dream and your vision, right? If we have a vision for peace in the world, we can begin to embody that. We can begin to live with that because we're shifting our beliefs about it not being possible, or about what it looks like to be in a world where we're always scrabbling for resources and taking from others what it is we feel like we don't have for ourselves. So the big question right now for all of us is going to be really about, can we use this time to deepen our spiritual connection? Or are we going to devolve into chaos? Right? I think the answer lives in the frequencies, the bandwidth of these gene keys that we've been talking about. If gate 25 constricts and gate 55 victimizes and gate 59 hides and gate 41 fantasizes, we'll spiral into more fear, more chaos, more tension. But if the gate 25 accepts and the gate 55 trusts and the gate 59 connects and the gate 41 envisions, We initiate a whole new spiritual architecture, individually and collectively. Feel that. Hold that in your heart. What does it feel like? I'm choking on it. Excuse me. It's a very cold morning and the heat has to stay on, which means there's a lot of dry air in my room here. So here's the spectacular part, the epic part of this journey that we're in. Saturn and Neptune at the gate 25, they're not asking, will the world collapse? You should not be asking that question either. They're really asking us more about, will we keep our hearts open while the structures of our outer world are shifting, sometimes collapsing, sometimes being partially rebuilt and then collapsing, and then partially being rebuilt and collapsing, right? These changes that are being wrought. The sun in the gate 55 says, will you trust the process? Will you trust and have faith that the evolution of the world of our existence is moving us toward more open-hearted acceptance? Will you build on real connection? That's what the gate 59 is asking. And Pluto in the 41 asking, what new dream are you willing to seed? Because if you're willing to seed it, if you can see it, if you can sort of tap into the dream of it all, then it's totally creatable. Otherwise, you wouldn't see it. Otherwise, you wouldn't dream it, right? The dream is possible. And this is a choice point then that we all find ourselves at collectively and individually. It's a frequency threshold. I really want to have this big open doorway, and are we willing to walk through it, or do we slam it shut? So don't close the door. Hold it open. Keep it going, right? Do the work that needs to be done within you, because you're responsible for it, in order to create the world that you want to live in. All right? So much more to talk about on this subject, but now I want to shift a little because I rewrote a myth this morning. I'm actually going to read the myth I wrote to you, but I want to talk about the old myth first. If I can do this without choking would be nice. Okay. So when we look back in time and we see the mythology of Saturn, Kronos, also named in Roman mythology, and we look at Neptune, named Poseidon in Roman authority, long ago, kind of, in the first age of epic myths, Saturn, Kronos, ruled alone. And he built walls of stone and laws of iron. And he measured time and he guarded power. And he believed that if he controlled the future, he could prevent loss. And so he swallowed what he feared. And what he feared most was his children usurping his power. Now, Neptune, he was a child of the deep. He was cast into the ocean of unconsciousness. And there he grew restless. And he stirred the tides, right? The tides and the waters. And he dissolved certainties. And he whispered dreams into sleeping minds, into the dream world. The world that followed was built on conquest and containment. Fathers overthrew fathers and sons battled for territory, still do. The earth endured, and the feminine, the heart of creation, waited. She wasn't gone. She was beneath the surface, in the roots, in the womb, in the waters. She watched as structures hardened without compassion, and she watched as oceans raged without guidance. And she knew neither stone nor sea could rule alone. That's a tale of the patriarchy. That's a tale of male dominance, masculine dominance, not just male dominance, masculine dominance. Now, When the wheel of time completed its long arc, Saturn and Neptune met again. But the time at the very spark of a new cycle, right? The 0 degrees of Aries, at the threshold here of Aries, at the gate of love, Saturn arrived weary. He had learned that control does not prevent loss. He had seen empires rise and crumble. He had watched walls crack. Neptune arrived humbled. He had learned that dissolution without direction creates chaos. He had seen dreams evaporate. He had felt the cost of illusion. And at the horizon between stone and sea, a third presence arose. She did not overthrow them. She stood between them. She was the heart. She was the mother of balance. She was the divine feminine, not as softness, but as wisdom. And she spoke. You have both forgotten why you were created. To you, Saturn, I give compassion. Build, but build with love. To you, Neptune, I give grounding dream, but dream with responsibility. And to humanity, I give choice. And so, a new age did not begin with conquest. It began with integration. Saturn laid foundations not of domination, but of unity. Neptune inspired visions, but not of escape, but of unity. The feminine wove relationship intelligence into leadership. She restored collaboration where rivalry once ruled. She reminded humanity that prosperity is not accumulation, it is shared flourishing. The old myth of swallowing the future was rewritten. The future was not devoured, it was nurtured. And when fear arose, as it always does in times of change, the people remembered constriction closes the heart, acceptance opens it. Faith replaces victimhood, connection replaces isolation, imagination replaces fantasy. And in that remembering, peace became possible. Not perfect peace, living peace. Not naive love, mature love. Not the end of struggle, but the end of domination. The end of domination is upon us. So the moral of our time, the moral of this story, the potential here, that this is the myth of Saturn and Neptune reborn. This is opportunity. And this is not father against son anymore, but structure and spirit in partnership to build the golden age, to build a future that is worth living. This is not masculine without feminine. They have to be both together in this. It's power balanced by heart. The golden age is not handed down by the gods. It's not just given. It is chosen by us, by the people. It begins wherever a heart refuses to close. It begins wherever someone builds with compassion. And it begins wherever imagination becomes embodied action. And it begins now. What will you do? Who will you be? How will you change in the face of all that is happening in the world, in your personal life, in your relationships, in your work, in your health, in your you name it, right? It's all together here. All right. So let's see how everybody's feeling about all of this morning. And it does seem like we have, an outer world that's looking a bit like the ship is riding. Um, it's slow, right? Time flows sometimes in fits and starts, and yet I think it's very clear from everything that we've talked about this morning that the choice is ours. What direction we move in is ours to choose or lose, right? So, will you choose to see love out there because you see it in here? Will you choose to see acceptance out there because you see it in here? Will you choose to see tolerance out there because you see it in here, right? All of it really begins here in the heart, in a heart that's not constricted, in a heart that's open wide, that's broke open, right? Okay, so let's see here. Yes, and you know what? Asa, I'm going to go back to what you said. It's an energy that my ancestors never felt. It is up to me to stamp it. True. That's the same for all of us, right? All of us living in this moment have been stamped by the truth of a mythology that was devoid of the feminine energy of heart, of compassion, of love, right? It's not been in balance. It's been way out of balance. Is it any wonder the world looks the way it does? Is it any wonder that we look at people that are the other, the immigrants, for example, or refugees, for example, as other, as a problem, right? Because we're looking at them through a closed heart. We're looking at them as, a part of a myth that lacks the heart of the divine feminine. We need to bring it all back together. I'm not saying that that's an easy solution either, because it's not, right? We have to balance the scales always. But we can't balance those scales while they're so far tipped to a world with a closed heart, right? We've got to do something different. And sometimes, the closed happens so that we can become more open again, right? Those things are always tipping. Asa says, now I'm getting chills. Good morning, Amanda. Asa, Libra here. And yes, I see it now. Karen's Corner. On that note, I think I've had enough evolution. um, Christine, Prince Andrew arrested the other day. Let the dominoes begin to fall. Notice it's other countries that are making people become responsible and not the USA yet, even though we have a list, yay long, of people involved. And again, I don't know that solution, but let's remember that these people have played some kind of role, perhaps, we don't know, right? Those are allegations, in something horrific. And if they played that role, then they need to be made accountable. And who knows if they were part of it or not, or just, having had a conversation with the man put you in, the way of scorn and all of that. So we'll see what happens, as time goes on. Again, keeping our hearts open. Asa, removing the rose-colored glasses, and it's feeling brave to do that. Yes. I don't, what do I think about the rose-colored glasses part? I feel like when you need the rose-colored glasses so that you can see the dream. But if you're only living through those rose-colored glasses, then you're not building the dream, right? Now you're just living in your fantasy world. So yeah, remove those rose-colored glasses, take a look at what's real in front of you, put them back on, take them off and build, put them back on, take them off and build. That's the way that I think I would move through that. Um, and Patty, always thinking it'll get better than the company used you. That company used you. I'm not sure what you're saying there, but I think I get it. Like always feeling like it's going to get better, but it's not going to get better unless you choose it. There's the key for every one of us is it's not going to just happen by sitting by passively. That is not Aries energy. Aries energy is not passive, it is active, right? So what are you willing to do? And I'm not saying you have to do something on some grand scale to impact the collective. I'm saying that every little choice you make to serve yourself or to, and I don't mean it that way exactly, I mean to be the true you, to live through the love of self, the more you impact, that ripples out from you to others. M.A. Jules, sending love to everyone. May we all continue to keep our hearts open in the face of all fear. I love it. And so grateful for these Friday chats. I love it. Thank you for joining me here, M.A. Jules. It's great to have you. Amy, well, I would say it's changing for different groups because we don't all agree on what the tribe should look like. Correct. But is any one person wrong? If your heart is open, there's room for us to create a loving world. We don't have to do it from constriction. We don't have to do it from a place of hate or fear, right? And so far, what I've been looking at in the outer world has all been very much based in fear, right? Fear of what might be taken away from us and all of that. So you're right, right? What does the tribe look like? Well, the tribe is a multicolored cape, right? A tapestry of lots of different faces, lots of different dreams and visions and beliefs. And that is how it's been designed from the very beginning. But we turned it into fear. And now we've got to right that ship, if you will. Asa, my gate 25 is my moon, and in the design, the body side connecting to my design body, Jupiter 51, the shocks that awaken you to grow and expand into your more open-hearted self, Asa. Christine, 59 Uranus Leo, mind 59 Uranus Leo, design 59 is all about connection. It is about the sustainability in the connections that we make with each other, right? And how do we create the win-win in the connection rather than the win-lose, right? Rather than taking over a territory and raping it of all of its resources so that then the indigenous peoples lose, how could we create something more sustainable and that supports all tribes, all nations, all peoples, right? That's that energy of the 59. And good morning to all of Jana. I didn't see you there. Good morning. Jacqueline Tyler, happy Friday to you. Tariffs keep tipping, Teddy says. Apparently the Supreme Court ruled today that the tariffs are, there's got to be something that changed. I didn't get to read the article, but something about the tariffs did not pass. TD Hawk, well, the files certainly showed us why they were trying to distract us with many things, including immigration. Yes, and it's truly horrific, yes. And I think, you know, in the main, it is indicative of what we can change, right? How we can change. The choices that we as individuals make from here on out. I'm not saying it's going to be easy because I think, you know, when you have so many different voices coming from so many different corners of the world, from so many different belief systems, and we still have a very greedy, empowered billionaire boy mindset going on right now, that change is going to be a little more difficult. Yet it is incumbent on each one of us to see that we serve it with an open heart, that your decisions that you make to engage or to not engage comes from an open heart, right? I know that sometimes when we think about the open heart, we think, well, I'm going to get hurt, right? Someone's going to step on me, or I'm going to get used and abused. But that's not what I'm meaning here, right? You can be in an open heart and see that that particular relationship is not one that's good for you. You know, the open heart works for you as it does for others. It's open. That's the nature. It's open-hearted, right? But you can also still offer compassion. You can be in compassion rather than judgment of the other, right? So many things could change if we ruled with an open heart. I don't even know how else to say that. But it begins now. So if I leave you today with anything, you know that you have a choice in how you take this energy from here on out, how you enact your dreams. Do you leave them in the realm of fantasy or do you enact them and make them real? That is your choice, right? And it will unfold over time, of course. Saturn will be in this realm for 2.5 more years, Neptune for 12 or 13. So we got time. Things will unfold. Pluto, of course, until 2044, holding the space of a new humanity. So it's moving in the right direction, but bit by bit, step by step. And with every choice you make to live with an open heart, you make that potential more powerful and more um, a probability rather than just a potential. All right. Thank you all for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I will see you on Monday. Bye for now.